Well, welcome to Front Office Pros. I'm Steve, and this is Joe. And today marks a special day for Front Office Pros because we have a special guest for the first time ever. That is the D Unit 13, Dustin Ludke. He is a writer and contributor for QB List. We are super excited to have him, Dustin. Welcome to our Front Office Pros YouTube show. This is exciting stuff right now.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here today. It's great to be the first guest ever.
We're going to be going through speed trading. If you haven't watched our videos before, what we do is we go through 10 players and we make a decision of whether or not we would trade for or trade away the player from a dynasty context, or if we must, maybe we'll tell you to hold. So our first player is running back Leonard Fournette. What do you do, Dustin? Do you trade for or trade away from a dynasty context?
I think you trade away. I think his value is at his peak right now. He's going to be 24 years old, entering free agency next year. It runs through 24, so he'll be a 24 free agent, but there's an opt-out next year for them where they could save a couple million, 14 million in cap space. So I don't know if Tampa Bay keeps them. Plus, you're talking about a Tampa Bay team that's probably turning over. Brady probably won't be there next year. Evans only has a year or two left on his contract. They may just go young, and we've seen Rachaad White get more carries every week. So I'm trading away Leonard Fournette.
Yeah, 100% agree, Dustin. I'd be looking to trade him away. I mean, there's going to be some hungry win now teams in a dynasty league that might take him for this year, and that's all we know right now is his production this year, and he's looking pretty good. So I'm trading him away. And like he said, probably the value coming off of these last 2 weeks is probably the highest it could be. So take advantage of that.
So interestingly enough, I just recently in our dynasty league traded for Leonard Fournette. I just was in a win now situation, decided to put all my chips in. But realistically, I do agree with you guys. I think the smart play is to trade him away. Like you said, Dustin, could be if he doesn't opt out, if there's going to be a quarterback change, no matter what in Tampa Bay. You've got Rachaad White, who, we haven't really seen it as much besides the one game that Leonard Fournette was just taken out just for, load management, I guess. But I think Rachaad White is the future. He's a great, receiver out of the backfield. I just think that you probably could get more value out of him now by trading him than either holding him or trying to trade for him. But if you're a win now team, I don't hate it. That's what I did. So. All right, our next player, wide receiver, Juju Smith-Schuster.
You got to try to trade him away. He's 27 after the season. He doesn't have a contract for next year currently, and he's not producing to get another contract right now. He's currently wide receiver 34 on a good offense. So if he goes to a bad offense, what's that look like for him? Probably not great. So he hasn't produced, and I don't know if he gets a big contract or even more than a 1 year next year because he hasn't produced this year on the Chiefs. So I'm trading away Juju Smith-Schuster.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Actually, well, before the season started, I traded him away, but yeah, absolutely. I'm looking to trade him away. Especially he had just had his best game against the Bills this past weekend. So the value is there. I take advantage of that because I don't know if we can definitely not bank on that type of performance week in, week out. As we know, Patrick Mahomes also said it could be a different receiver every week in this offense. So you just never know.
Well, Joe, you anticipated that, it's interesting because if you looked across the industry, a lot of fantasy analysts were really expecting Juju to be the leader in this wide receiver core and be extremely productive. I know you had concerns over his knee. I can't remember, but like he gets like drainage out of his knee, and that was for you like oh boy, I better get rid of this guy.
Definitely, yeah.
So I think for me, I'm in agreement with you guys. I think this is a great time to trade away. I don't know if you watched the game, Dustin, but I swore I saw a pick play when he went for that touchdown for like 60 yards. And we're like, "Where's the call, ref?" But I think just like you guys said, I agree with you. I think at this point you do trade him away. He had his best week. I don't think you can expect that week in, week out. Kelsey's really the offensive weapon you want on that team. So at this point, I think you trade him away.
Yeah, I did. Of course, I did watch the game, as you can tell by my Bills swag. I mean, that's this is my starter jacket from, back in the 90s when I was in high school and junior high. So a longtime Bills fan. I do think Juju definitely had a pick play, but you definitely got to trade him away.
Yeah, well,
and Sky Moore's getting more touches too, so they're going to work him in and get that rookie involved and go young.
Yeah, that's a good point. As a fellow Bills fan, that was quite exciting last week. So
it was.
So our next player, quarterback Lamar Jackson. This is an interesting one, Dustin.
I am a trade away for Lamar Jackson.
Ooh, okay.
Probably a hot take. I've been out of Lamar Jackson for 2 years now. The number of hits that he has taken, I literally had an article prepped and ready to go, basically calling for a Lamar injury. And then, I was going to publish it on Monday. That Sunday, he got injured because of the amount of hits he's taken. Historically, he is at historic numbers with every other rushing quarterback for when they get injured and injured bad. So Mike Vick, Randall Cunningham, Steve McNair, all these other rushing quarterbacks, when they got to the same number of hits he has, they miss significant time. And he missed significant time. It wasn't significant. He missed a couple games last year. I'm worried about his longevity. Doesn't have a contract. He's playing for one. Could end up on a new team. I think the Ravens would be stupid, but they're not wholly stupid if they keep Huntley and trade and let Lamar go. Him on a new team might not get the same usage he has now, and his value really comes from his rushing. If that gets shut down on a new team, or because he just doesn't want to take the pounding, he loses a lot of his fantasy value. So I'm trading away at peak value right now.
Yeah, I agree. I'm trading him away as well. I'm not sure if it's that hot of a take, but definitely trading him away. His inconsistency, like you said, being that this is his contract year, not sure if the Ravens re-sign him, although I don't see the Ravens are set up perfectly for this type of offense, and they've surrounded themselves and created this for Lamar Jackson. So it's kind of be weird if they didn't, but yeah, I maximize his value. He's very inconsistent as well, especially from a fantasy perspective. So I'm trading off him.
Man, it seems like we got some consensus between the three guys here today, but I would trade him away as well. Similar points of these guys, being on a 1-year deal, you have to wonder where he's going to go. I actually wouldn't be surprised if the Ravens franchise tag him, because I don't actually think they want to give him the long deal, and especially the guaranteed money that a lot of these quarterbacks are seeking. And because of his gameplay, like you're saying, Dustin, it could give some reservations, for him. I think he's an electric player. And there will be matchups where if you have him in, I think he could single-handedly win you your matchup. But I also think that he has the reputation of being this top fantasy quarterback, but there are times where he just gives you a donut. I mean, you saw what happened last week where things just fell off the rails, and he threw the interception, he lost the fumble, and that was it, and that's negative points right there. So I think he's a good player. And because of his name recognition, I think you could get a lot for him, and that's why I would be more apt to trade him away at this point.
So a little insight, him and Tyler Huntley are both free agents after this year. I mean, obviously Lamar, we know Lamar's contract. It's a great market for quarterbacks, that there's going to be 5-6 teams that definitely need a quarterback, and 3 or 4 others that could be looking for quarterbacks. So between free agency and the draft, and there's not a lot in free agency that's really exciting. It's like Daniel Jones and Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold, but then it's Lamar Jackson, Tyler Huntley, which a lot of people like. In the games last year, he played really well, very similar to Lamar. So I could see the Ravens keeping him and letting Lamar walk, save a bunch of money. So Lamar's going to have options, and he's going to get a massive contract out there. I mean, he could go to the Colts, he could go to Seattle, he could go to Atlanta, he could go to Washington. There's a lot of places for him to go that might be suitors for him. And it's just a good market for him and other quarterbacks that are out there. But he's definitely going to be that marquee name. But with Huntley also being on the market, the Ravens just may save that money based on other contracts they have coming up. So I wrote about it in my article last month, September's Dynasty Future Report. So if you're looking for more, you can check that out on the website, QBlist.com.
Yeah, I think, just based on that article, I think if there may be a possibility, because he's, really a backup, unless maybe someone picked him up last year when Lamar was injured. He might be out there, and like you mentioned, I think it's a great stash of Tyler Huntley at this point. All right, next player, guys. We got tight end Mike Gesicki. Dustin, I know you got an opinion on this one.
I'm trading for him, and I'm trading for him hard right now. Dude is electric when he plays. Doesn't fit this Miami offense. Is going to be a free agent. Probably not getting, not. He's got the tag now, so he's gone. He's going to go to a new team that's going to utilize him as a receiver in that Kyle Pitts type role, which is where he excelled last year. And he was tight end in the top 5 last year, I believe. I mean, was like 2 or 3 in targets and yards. Like, just as a dynamic dude who can go get the ball. We've seen it in a couple games, 2 touchdown game. He's the guy that you want because he's going to go to a situation that's going to utilize him. Miami's not in that system. They want a blocking tight end. They don't utilize him the way he should be utilized. So he's going to go to a team, and again, a market where tight ends and that kind of receiver role is going to pay dividends, and he's going to have a great market for him. So he's going to go to a right fit, I think, to a good team that's going to utilize him. So I'm trying to trade for him as much as possible.
Yeah, definitely. I actually took your advice from when we met with you, and I did trade for Gesicki in our Dynasty League.
There you go.
So yes, I'm obviously saying trade for the guy. Like Dustin said, just not a good fit in Miami, even though he just had a 2 touchdown game last week, probably because of Teddy Bridgewater. But yeah, I like the trade for him. Is more of a future play, as he mentioned. Yep. Maybe fingers crossed he gets traded at the deadline, and maybe he gets more consistent this year. We'll see, but at least for next year, he's going to be a great smash play, I think.
I don't know, Joe. You might have been brainwashed by Dustin here.
Maybe, but hey, taking a shot at it, got him pretty relatively on the cheap, I think. So
if you got him before last week, you probably got him cheap, and then he has this 2 touchdown game, and you look like a genius. And then if he just keeps producing, even if he does okay, which tight end's a tough position, he'll do okay this year, and then next year I think he does really well.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I've been kind of going back and forth on this. I think it really, to me, depends on, and it's kind of a sorry answer, but it really depends on what the value is from that owner. I think ideally, you could trade for him because he's been so not utilized in that offense. Like you said, Dustin, he doesn't fit it. And so he has the talent. And if he goes to an offense where he can be utilized, because he's more of a receiving tight end, he's not known, for blocking. And so if that does happen, that's an anticipation move. So I think I would lean towards trading for him. And honestly, if you do that, I think the owner will probably be ecstatic that you even want him, because they probably think that, I can't trade him away. I just don't know if I trade for him now, because now that he just had that 2 touchdown game, they're like, oh, now I can get, he needs to crater down a little more, because this isn't going to be a week in, week out thing.
Yeah, that's fair. I would wait till maybe his bye week and then trade for him, because his value is going to be low. Because I do agree, his value is super high right now, coming off 2 touchdowns, and everybody's hoping that maybe he turns it around. But yeah, let him have a bad game or 2 and go get him, maybe when he's headed into his bye.
All right, our next player, fellow Bills player that we like, running back Devin Singletary. What do we think, Dustin?
Listen, if you're a win now team, go get him. But in general, trade away. Free agent after the end of the season, probably not staying in Buffalo, probably going elsewhere. Not a great market for him, not a great market for running backs in general in this upcoming year. You got him, Fournette, who we talked about, Josh Jacobs. You're going to have some big names and just not a lot of landing spots for running backs. He's been good on the Bills so far, so his value is high right now, which is high as I think it's been. James Cook is there in Buffalo. I think he's the future. There's rumors that Buffalo might trade for McCaffrey. So unless Singletary's part of that deal and goes to Carolina and he's the starting back there, I think he ends up being next year in a rotation somewhere and not great for your fantasy team, not seeing a ton of carries. So I'm trading away on his high value right now on that Bills offense. People want pieces of that Bills offense right now, so you're going to max out the value on him right now.
Yeah, I agree. Like you said, win now teams, absolutely. I'd look to acquire him, but otherwise, definitely trade him away. He was a guy that got hot at the end of last year as well and scored a bunch of points. So maybe he's able to do that again this year. And if you're win now, buy him and maybe ride the train. Because yeah, like you said, the uncertainty of next year is definitely not good. So I definitely look to move off him.
I don't know about you, Dustin. Honestly, I'm surprised as a Bills fan. We didn't have full dedication. It was a running back by committee, and Singletary has really gotten the lion's share of the opportunities. I mean, the first game I saw not only did I see Devin Singletary, I saw a little bit of James Cook, and I'm like, wait, what? They're using Zach Moss? Now Zach Moss was a healthy and active for the most recent Chiefs game. That's very telling to me. They didn't really use James Cook either. Now it's the bye week. Sometimes teams during the bye week, this is an opportunity for those other players that haven't been necessarily involved to kind of get infused in. So I wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing more of James Cook going forward. So I would agree with you. I would trade him away. I could see the Bills give him a team-friendly deal because I think he probably would want to come back to Buffalo, and I'm not really sure that he could get the bag elsewhere. But I think, he's done really well. I think teams could be interested in him as a possible, RB2 flex play. So I'd say trade him away at this point.
Yeah, he's a solid flex play every week with RB2 upside. I agree with you. I think coming out of the bye, the Bills are going to rotate James Cook more. I think we'll see Zach Moss a little bit more. I think they know that they can't just pound it with one guy all season and be healthy, so they're going to rotate him in. They want to get James Cook going. And then if they make a trade for McCaffrey, Barkley was talked about, but the Giants aren't trading Barkley while they're winning. But next year, right, they could get Barkley in the offseason, and that just kills Singletary. But it's not a great market for him, so he may take a friendly deal to stay with Buffalo because it's just nowhere else for him to go. He's going to get the bag. So he could be back, but if he's back, it's definitely going to be a committee. And I think if he's back next year, he's the small side of a committee with James Cooks.
Yeah. I think that's definitely a fair bet at this point. All right, so our next player, wide receiver Tyreek Hill. I'm interested to see what you think about this one, Dustin.
Been trying to trade him away for 2 years now in Dynasty, and I cannot do it.
Wow.
He's a great player. He's electric, but he's 28 years old, and his game is built on speed, whether that's burning people down the field on deep passes or getting the ball and using his speed in space. That's going to drop off at some point as he ages out. He doesn't run great routes. He runs good routes, but not great. He's not like a Devontae Adams who's running these amazing routes. It's all speed, and if he loses a step, now he could lose probably 2 steps and still be equal to cornerbacks. But on that team that still has Jalen Waddle, who's on the ascend, and then you have Eric Ezukanama, who I really like coming up. Like, you're going to get the running backs involved. I like trading him away because he does have the name value, and I think you can max out on it. That's been my issue is I don't want to trade him cheap in Dynasty, but I definitely think you trade him away because I don't see a bright future for him. I think it'll be good. I think he'll be a solid. Right now he's a wide receiver 1, but I see him being a wide receiver 2 next year, then starting to trail off over the next 3 years. He just signed that big deal in Miami. He seems happy, but I think 2 is good, not great. Obviously not Mahomes level. But I think that speed for him is just going to start to fall off, and I worry about that going forward.
Yeah, definitely. I think, obviously, win now teams, I'd be looking to acquire him and ride the wave of this year anyways, and he's been producing, so to help you try to win that championship. But, yeah, otherwise, I'd trade him away, like you said. Definitely, as he's aging, he definitely could be losing potentially a couple steps here, which definitely hurts him. Like you said, they have plenty of guys behind him as well. Maybe we see Ezukanma with Waddle, could take away a little bit, but we'll see.
Yeah, I don't know. I know, Dustin, you're a big fan of Eric Ezukanma. It's one of those things. I don't expect an emergence until next year. I don't think you do either, but it's one of those roll the dice plays. I just don't know whether or not he's a later round pick. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. This is the first time I'm going to break away from you guys. I'm going to say you trade for Tyreek Hill. I think that his value, I could be wrong about this. I have nothing to prove it. I think it's completely anecdotal, but I think at large, the fantasy football community does not value Tyreek Hill is a top echelon receiver, although he can give you those performances, where he could single-handedly win you your matchup because he is so electric. You're right, Dustin. His play does predicate on his speed. I think that his relevance is probably 2 to 3 years. Obviously, he's off the team in 3 to 4. But I think that, honestly, I've been shocked how good he's been with Miami. I didn't expect this. I thought we were going to see a fall off, not with Mahomes. But he's continued to perform at a really high clip. So at this point, I would trade for him. But, keep me honest, guys. What do you think? Do you think that in general, the fantasy community regards him highly? Would it be hard to trade him? Would you have to give up a lot? Or you don't think you would?
I think you have to give up a decent amount. He's not what Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson are. He's probably a little less than Devontae Adams in trade markets, but I still think you're going to need I don't think 2 firsts, but a first and a second probably to get him if you're just doing picks.
What do you think, Joe?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, obviously, Dustin's been having a hard time trading away because he's not getting the value. And I think that speaks to, like you said, people don't seem to translate Tyreek Hill to that upper echelon guy that they want to give up that much draft capital for or give you that much value in a trade for whatever reason. I think that kind of comes down to, like Dustin said, doesn't run the best of routes, but like just makes things happen because of his speed. So that could be why. But yeah, I think that type of value for Hill is probably fair, although it might be hard for people to do that, especially if they kind of see his window kind of closing.
So in our Dynasty League, we are an full IDP league. So we like to feature 2 IDP players. Dustin, I know this will be a new little twist for you, so I'm interested to see what you have to say. But our first player on the IDP
break out my
side,
notes.
yeah. Break out those notes, rip them right open. We got defensive tackle Quinnen Williams. What do you think, Dustin?
I'm trading for him. He's currently 25. He's under contract for this year and next year. He'll be a free agent 24. Graded out on Pro Football Focus's PFFs.com's grading 71.3 for run defense, 88.1 for pass defense. It's a young defense there. And they're middle of the road in terms of run pass funnel. So they're not a heavy run funnel team. They're not a heavy pass funnel team. So he's going to get those plays no matter what's happening. Like if it was just a run funnel defense, I'd like him a little more. If it was a pass funnel defense, you'd like him less, right? Because you're just relying on sacks. So he's going to get your tackles. He's going to get sacks because they're middle of the road with that. They don't push a team to do one thing or other. So he's able to get sacks and get tackles because they're allowing teams to be balanced, which I think is great for him in that position.
Yeah, definitely. I think I'm trading for him as well. I mean, the guy looks like an absolute beast out there. Just really creating havoc, like you said, especially against the run, but then also great against the pass too with his pass rush ability. He's definitely a guy I'd be looking to acquire for sure. Although, I mean, I don't know if the owners really want to get rid of him, so definitely going to have to give up some capital in order to acquire this guy for sure.
Oh yeah, you're going to have to trade a lion's share to acquire him, especially defensive tackles, at least for us in a full IDP league, is extremely coveted. In your traditional IDP league, they're probably an afterthought. I would definitely trade for him as well. Right now, he's co-leading the league in sacks with 5 sacks. And he will unless something unforeseen happens, he is on pace to, break his personal record for sacks. And I want to say that he might have been known as more of like a really good. I didn't think he was. That's interesting about PFF. I didn't know that. I didn't think that he was that accomplished on the pass rush side. So maybe this is really, kind of coming into his game. But that Jets defense, Robert Saleh, he's there. He's been there now. This is, I believe, his second year, right, guys?
Yep.
Yeah, second year. So, I think his defense is starting to take shape. You saw him take Sauce Gardner this year. They got Quinnen Williams. He had injury problems, Quinnen Williams, and that's the thing. His durability is somewhat in question, but you can't deny the talent. And I would be shocked as long as Robert Saleh is there. And I mean, honestly, no matter who's there, I would think that he's going to get signed. I think he's going to be there long term. I think he's the next defensive tackle to break the bank. They're going to accept his 5th-year option, no question. But I would say, or if they might have already, I think I would trade for him as well.
Yeah, the only way I would trade him away is if you are going to get that lion's share. If you're going to get a massive deal for him because he's hot right now, his value's probably peak, then I could see possibly, but I want him on my teams if I can get him.
Yeah, that's a risky proposition though because he's so young. I mean,
Yeah.
defensive tackles can play late in their career. I mean, look at Calais Campbell. I mean, he's kind of a a mixed bag of a player, but man, he defensive end and D tackle, he kind of plays both. But defensive tackles can play late in their career if they're good. So you could have him for the next like 6 or 7 years. That's tough to pass up.
That is.
Definitely.
All right. So next player, tight end Zach Ertz. What do we think, Dustin?
Trade away. The dude's 32 years old. I mean, he's doing well since he's come to the Cardinals. But this year he's played well, but they got DeAndre Hopkins coming back. Sounds like Hollywood is only going to be out 4 to 6 weeks, so he'll be back towards the end of the season. Playoffs if the Cardinals are in it, I don't know. But you also have Trey McBride who's coming back, and I think we'll push him for targets. So I think his value's peaked, and he's about to drop off a very steep cliff. So I'm trading away as fast as I can.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I mean, everyone kind of knew coming into this season, before Hopkins came back, like your 6-game window for Ertz was that 6-game window. Yep. So now that it's passed, he's coming back this week. Ertz has been pretty good, especially as bad as tight ends around the league have been for fantasy. So yeah, maximize the value and trade him right now.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. I think you definitely trade him away. I think now with DeAndre Hopkins coming back into the offense, and it's a great point, Dustin. I wasn't even thinking specifically about Trey McBride, but they did draft him early. They will probably get him more involved over time. Like you said, he is older. I think that especially with how bananas the tight end group has been in general, you don't know. You may be able to get a possible younger tight end that has a lot of upside. I'm not saying you can get Kyle Pitts. Who knows if that owner is that desperate? I would be really concerned if they made that trade. But I think at this point you definitely trade him away because I think I agree. I think that cliff is coming. Might not be right away, but I think I don't think it's sustainable what he's doing.
You could probably trade Ertz for like a Daniel Bellinger, young tight end for the Giants, and a pick, and I think you'd be doing pretty well there.
Yeah, I think that. I mean, he's starting to come on. He was a late round pick for us. He was like in the 6th round, but he's really showing his receiving prowess. So, all right, our next IDP player, defensive end Montez Sweat.
Trade for. He's got 1 more year left on his deal, but I think he gets signed. He'll be 28 entering 24 season free agency. But currently on PFF, 89 run defense, 79.9 for pass rush. He's having a good year, and there's no Chase Young like on that line with him. So he's doing well without Chase Young. Once Chase Young comes back, I think that just elevates his game a little bit on the older side, but not overly old. You're obviously relying on tackles and sacks from because he's not covered. He's not getting interceptions, but I'm trading for him. I think he's a dynamic player on a team that also can afford to sign him. Very much like Quinnen Williams, it's a young team, so the Commanders aren't going to have a quarterback contract. They really don't have a running back contract. They don't have a wide receiver contract. They don't have any big contracts on the books, so they can spend on the defensive side. So they'll take him. They might even add a piece next year to kind of complement him in the secondary or linebackers. So I'm trading for him because I think the production's there.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, Dustin. I think I'm probably going to trade him away.
Oh, the first time Joe disagrees with Dustin. You guys have been neck and neck this whole time.
Yep. I just, like you said, I mean, at 28, it's kind of older. I understand pass rushers, definitely can play till they're 30 or even a little older. But I think I try to maximize his value. Like you said, he's playing well this year. Try to get younger at the defensive end for hitting somebody in their prime potentially, and maximize the value. And I'd like to trade him away here.
Yeah, I gotta lean towards Joe on this one, Dustin. I would trade him away as well. With 1 year left on the contract, I don't think he'll return to Washington. I actually think they may be more likely to resign. We had a debate on this in another episode. I think it's De'Aaron Payne or Deron Payne, one of the two. But I think it's Deron. But I think they're more likely to keep him. He's having a really good season. I think that he's the type of player. The thing that concerns me about him is he has been good, but even when he did play across from Chase Young, he wasn't having those dynamic numbers. And I think the big thing for me is I could be completely wrong about this, but it feels similar to possibly a Bud Dupree situation where Bud Dupree goes to the market, he gets the bag, goes to Tennessee, and then he's completely just vanished. I think that I just don't know if he'll ever be that elite player. But if people saw his production, they would say, hey, he's reliable, he's good. And so I'd trade him away at this point. So our last player, this player might come to surprise. Some of you might be like, who? Hopefully you know who he is. But we've got wide receiver Terrace Marshall.
Trade away. Carolina's clearly in some sort of shift. They traded away Robbie Anderson. There's rumors swirling about Christian McCaffrey, DJ Moore. The question was when they traded Robbie Anderson, who steps up? And everyone's like, Terrace Marshall, because they've had those shares. I'm on the other camp where I am trading for Laviska Shenault over Terrace Marshall.
Okay.
There's going to be a new QB next year. They're already on their third. They're probably going to start, who knows this week, Baker this week, Sam Darnold when he comes back. So they may be starting 3 different quarterbacks this year. If they trade away McCaffrey, I like Shenault as that gadget player, getting some sweeps, getting some run work. I don't see a path for Terrace Marshall. If he fills in that Robbie Anderson role, that's not that good. There's just no upside unless they're trading away DJ Moore and he somehow steps in the DJ Moore role, but he's not nearly as talented. He hasn't shown it in 2 years. I can't see trading for him, so I'm trading away, but I'm trading for Laviska Shenault.
Yeah, I don't know. See, I think this is kind of a hold situation. I don't know even if you did trade him away right now, what his value would be. I understand kind of there's some buzz around him because, he is projected to be the guy to fill that Robbie Anderson role. But as Dustin said, that hasn't been very good as Robbie Anderson didn't have much production as well. He did get a couple of targets. He did kind of drop them during the game. So that's a bit of a concern, but I might hold him and see if he does end up producing a little bit. And then if he does, then look to trade him away and kind of maximize his value.
See, I was listening very carefully to what each of you had to say because I am a Terrace Marshall owner. So I'm curious what you thought. But at this point, I gotta say, I'm gonna lean towards Joe on this one. I feel like I need to hold him. I drafted him with pretty high draft capital. I think others probably did as well. He has been a complete no-show, nowhere to be found. And you're right. I mean, you're not wrong. It's the first signs of life we've seen in quite some time as far as Terrace Marshall is concerned. I feel like I'd be trading him for like a kicker or something. I don't even know what they would be, giving me for Terrace Marshall. So I would say hold on him. I'm so reluctant, when it comes to selling low. You really have got to get to the point where it's just like, you know what? I'm at my last rope, and I just don't think I'm there yet. Let's see what happens with a new regime. Maybe he gets cut, he gets traded, he goes to a new team, and, he makes something of a new opportunity. Maybe a new coaching staff comes in, really likes him. Most of the time when there's a change in coaching staff, usually those past draft picks, unless they're like, hallmark players who have really shown out, usually they're on the way out. So I wouldn't be surprised. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if this Shenault is not even in Carolina. It's just a complete question mark. The whole team is a question mark as far as I'm concerned. I don't really know if there's any player that I could think of on the top of my head that I would view as like a safe player on that roster.
Yeah, DJ Moore is probably the only one I think is safe because he's young enough and has shown enough to stay on that roster. He's also shown enough that teams might trade Hall for him, and Carolina is clearly just tearing it all down to the studs. So he's probably the safest out of all of them.
Yeah, I think you're right. So that does it. We went through 10 players, whether or not you should trade for or trade away. Dustin, it was great having you as a special guest. Where can others learn more about all the great stuff you're doing in the fantasy football community?
Yeah, you can check me out on Twitter at the DUnit13. Give me a follow. I post my content that I write for QBlist.com. or you can check out the website, QBList.com. We do sit starts, so those come out every Thursday. We cover every game, every player, kind of give you a range of what we expected range of outcome, and tell you if they should start. You can join us. We post it on Reddit. We try to answer all the 700 questions that come in every day. We also do what we saw. So every Monday and / Tuesday, we cover every game. Kind of give you the box score, but kind of delve in a little bit. We actually have someone who watched every game. We have people that watch every game, whether that's live or recast, and we kind of, give you a breakdown of every game. So if you don't have the chance to watch certain games, you can go on there and check it out. And then we post all our other stuff. So I post a Dynasty future reports every month. So September's came out September 30th. October's will be out shortly. I give you 5 players that are basically free for Dynasty that you can get now, and then hopefully they pay dividends next year. And then I also give you 5 drop candidates for Dynasty and 5 hold candidates. Just kind of give you names, but the 5 I give you that you can buy now, I give you a little in-depth kind of project their road to production for next year. So highlights from last year were like Josh Palmer was probably my best one, where it was like, hey, he's gonna ball out. He's got Justin Herbert. Mike Williams was a question mark then, so he had that. You could see the road to relevancy for fantasy. So I do those every month. So look for October's. I'll be posting that soon. But yeah, check us out on QBList.com and give me a follow on Twitter.
Awesome. And thank you so much for watching.
It was great.
Thank you for being with us, Dustin. Thank you those that will be watching us. We are a relatively new show, so we try to post something on a weekly basis. So please hit that subscribe button, hit that notification, please give us a comment. We will let you know whether you should trade for or trade away a player. And till next time, Dustin. It's going to be. I'm looking forward to it.
I can't wait to come back. I love what you guys are doing. I know you guys are new, but I've really loved your videos. I watch them every week, so that's why I reached out. Was like, hey, let's do something together, because I think what you guys are doing is great. So great addition to the fantasy football space. I love it.
Awesome. We will definitely have you back for sure.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, till next time. Thanks.